All right, we're back here on the Chase Must podcast, taping this on a Monday afternoon. Very excited to have a first-timer here, Mr. Jamion Christian, formerly of George Washington, longtime basketball coach in the college game. Coach, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Great to be here, man. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being here as well. You got Michael Jordan behind you. Is that your favorite player all time?
I love MJ. I just
Mm-hmm.
grew up watching so many games. The world was so different because, you'd have like WGN and they would have every
Mm-hmm.
Bulls game on. So you'd have a chance just about to see every Bulls game there was. TBS had the Braves on.
Mm-hmm.
You had a chance to watch every game that they played. So, I felt like with the Bulls, growing up in that era, you watched Michael Jordan become who he was. He was
Mm-hmm.
a dominant individual player to a great team competitor and a guy who was really tough to beat. And you really felt like you watched those Bulls teams like make it through the Pistons and kind of
Mm-hmm.
find their way and become so dominant. No matter how dominant they were, for me, I was always rooting for them. And so I love that shot because I just think it's a perfect way to end someone's career. I mean, I know he went on to play for the Wizards a little bit after that, but
Mm-hmm.
you always want to finish on your way out. You always want to finish on top, and
Yeah.
then to finish off with that, holding that follow through with the fans behind you going crazy. That's what every competitor wants. All eyes on you in the biggest moments, and you want to deliver.
Yeah, I mean Peyton did it, and he was out. And hey, the Broncos have not made the playoffs since he retired. Brady did not want to end it on almost performing
Yeah.
one of the best comebacks since there was a Super Bowl a couple years ago that we won't talk about that he did orchestrate some kind of comeback there, but the memory is a little hazy on that front. Um, I'm curious, as someone who's coached a lot of young basketball players of late, is Jordan still the one that they look to? They're like, that's our favorite player. That's who they grew up to. Is it LeBron more? Is it Kobe more? Who have you found most young
Yeah.
players are drawn to now?
The conversation in the locker room is
Yeah.
usually pretty split between Kobe and LeBron.
Hmm.
You always mix in a couple of Kyrie Irving fans.
Really?
Yeah, you
Huh.
get a few guys in the locker room that really love Kyrie
Hmm.
and everything that Kyrie brings to it. One of the things that Kyrie brings to the game, he has a creativity and a flair and an ability to make something out of nothing.
Mm.
I think players really respect how he interacts with his life.
Hmm.
How he cares about things, how he's more than just a basketball player and wants to be more than just a basketball player, and makes that known. How he thinks differently and kind of pushes norms.
Mm.
There's always a few guys in the locker room that just that bleed with Kyrie,
Hmm.
but I think it really comes down to LeBron and Kobe, and I think that's mostly because of memory.
Mm.
Again, like I kind of grew up in the era with Jordan. I had a chance to watch him. It allows me to appreciate LeBron and Kobe, but for them, they didn't get a chance to watch MJ's dominance.
Mm.
And they think that that era of basketball isn't as good as this era, and they're just different. This era is so much more skill and
Yeah.
movement, and that area was a bit more physical and a little bit more tougher to score the ball and stuff. So, but their memory is more LeBron and Kobe, but
Yeah.
they have a great respect for Jordan. What Jordan's been able to do in the game, he's just at an iconic level.
Mm.
So it's like you recognize his greatness, and you don't want to doubt any. Very few guys say that LeBron's better than MJ or Kobe,
Mm.
but it's almost like they put him on such a pedestal that it's not about who's number one; it's about who's two and three.
Huh.
And so there's a great respect for MJ, and I think he's done an unbelievable job of just becoming iconic with Space Jam. They all grew up watching a little bit of Space Jam, and then
Mm.
with the shoes. And the shoes are, if you're a basketball guy, you're always you're a shoe freak, and he owns the market on that.
Are you a big shoe guy? How many shoes do you have?
I wasn't a big shoe guy till the last few years, actually.
Huh. Okay.
I hadn't been, but then for some reason, recently, I don't want to say I've become like a collector, but
Mm.
just started diving into a little bit more. My friends from college all make fun of me because when I was in college, I was not worried about shoes or fashion or style, and then
Mm.
as I've grown up a little bit older, I just dove into a little bit more.
Interesting. Well, how's your summer going? What have you had on the docket? What is it looking like for the next couple
Well, it's a
months?
little bit different summer for me.
Mm.
Usually, when you're a head coach, I've been a head coach for 10 years, was assistant for, 5 or 6 years before then. My whole life has just been getting ready for July, AAU,
Mhm.
and trying to load up. And usually in the month of June, we try to bring in 30 recruits in 30 days and have a ton of visits and get a chance to interact and talk with them and just give us a really good understanding of like the best players out there, and
Mhm.
try to do that for 2 years out. So it's a little bit different June for me. My wife had our son June 1st. So
Mhm. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks so much. There's nothing better. There's
Are you
nothing.
getting some sleep? How's the sleep looking the last
He's
couple days?
actually been pretty good. I mean, he's
Okay.
been on a pretty good cycle, and sleeping 3 hours. I mean, sleeping every 3 hours. We're kind of feeding and stuff, so he's doing that.
Okay.
To support my wife, but it's been good to be able to just be present with that and help out as much as possible. So it's a little bit different June for me. I am getting a chance to work with some teams, which has been really exciting. I've had a bunch of teams reach out to me and say, hey, can you do this kind of projects, from NBA teams to college teams? So I have had a chance to watch a ton of film and just watch some projects on people and try to work through some things. I'm really passionate about just helping others become the best they can be. That's a big part of being a coach. And just because I don't have a team this year doesn't mean that I don't get a chance to do that. So I'm trying to dive in and consult with many people doing that. They work with this group called Speakeasy, being an advisor for them. We're trying to make it easier for coaches to communicate and between one another. And so we're going to be building out some platforms where we do some podcasts, where we'll do some webinars, some workshops, and just try to continue to increase the education of the game. So excited about being able to do that, a little bit something different, and dive into the media side of it a little bit. So it's been, right now I'm just kind of got all these side hustles going on, but I'm enjoying what I'm getting a chance to do, getting a chance to be a dad, getting a chance to do some other things and learn some nuances in some other areas that I wouldn't have had a chance to do most of the time.
Sounds like you're going to take your time before jumping into the next thing full time.
I think it's important just to learn something new. There's not many times. I mean, I've had an amazing career in basketball so far, and it's not over yet. But I feel like I've had a chance to climb, halfway up the mountain. So my viewpoint is so different than it was when I started. And you kind of start working in a field and you're putting your head down and attacking it. And this is the first time that I get a chance to kind of take a deep breath and kind of look at it. I'm definitely going to take my time. I'm going to find something that's perfect for me, perfect for our family. But I want to value this time and ability to learn, whether it's reading or listening to different things or meeting different people. I just want to keep getting better. And I feel like if I can take the time now, knowing what I'm good at and knowing what my weaknesses are and trying to dive into those, I can be really dynamic on the other side of this and really help somebody out.
Do you know we shared a birthday?
I did not know that.
Well, yeah, April 18th. I know it's a great day, but I was just wild. I was like, small world. That was funny to me because there's not a lot of April 18th. I think Vince Young might share our birthday. I think that's another one.
I think there's one other like celebrity that I can think of that shares it.
Not a lot of us. Not a lot of us.
But it's good to be an Aries.
It is good to be an Aries.
Put your head down and go and attack things, and you have a little bit of fearlessness about you. It's good to be able to share this time with you.
Hey, Aries energy, we attack it. Content creators, we're going after it. We're just very driven people, I would say. Has it been helpful to have a brother who's also an NBA coach? Do y'all like bounce stuff off each other? Is it instill some competitive fire? Because I know you grew up in a coaching background anyway. Like, how does that work? Do you think it's a benefit or more of a frustration where it's like, oh man, we're always competing with one another to see who can do it, who can be a better coach?
No, I love my brother Jarrell Christian so much. It's been great watching him make this progression in coaching. It's been great to be able to try to aid and help him kind of make some decisions along the way. Being 4 years older, I had to fight through some things that maybe he didn't have to. But I was able to help him kind of navigate it differently, and that's been a lot of fun for me. Now, our family vacations probably are very fun for our wives because it's usually me and him. They're in the pool hanging out, the kids or whatever, and then it's usually him and I, reading through something or talking through a strategy or do that for the entire vacation that we're on.
But do y'all play one-on-one at all?
Say what?
Do y'all play one-on-one at all?
No, I mean, he'll never beat me one-on-one.
Never? Okay. You still got the older brother. You're like, it's never happening. I'm never letting that happen. Yeah.
But number two, we haven't played in a bit. We've played some team basketball and stuff, but, we really get along really well at this stage in our lives where we can really support each other. I mean, they're obviously getting ready to play tonight versus the Warriors. So him and I talk just about every day, and it's just great to watch his progression. I mean, he's a guy that played Division III, volunteered his first year at Division II, then found his way into a Division III assistant job, and then on his way to another Division III assistant job, and then found his way to the Oklahoma City Thunder, which really started his career, from there to the Go-Go, to the Wizards, to the Maine Celtics. So just really, really proud of him navigating this thing, because sport is not easy to navigate. I mean, you can be at the very top. 4 years ago, I was probably one of the hottest names in college basketball. We had just coming off an NCAA tournament. 4 years, you fast forward, and I'm like out of a job looking for something. So the game is so fickle that way, but that's why we love it. and that's why we enjoy it. So watching him navigate it, it's been a big joy to me, and just really happy for him. He's got a really bright future. He's grown so much in the game. He's worked with some of the very best. He's got a great perspective, and he's really just starting to find his stride as a basketball coach and as a leader. He's obviously, he's my brother. I'm biased, but he's really doing a great job.
That's cool, man. How important is diversity in your just basketball program building? I know you did a lot at George Washington. I know on the gender front as well with basketball ops. Like, how would you explain like your plan? So when you're ensuring that this is something that we are making, like this is a priority, that we are going to ensure diversity, and that this is where we're going with this program, and this is, I'm putting my stamp on this. How have you implemented that in the past, and why?
Well, I'm just huge on that. I think there's so many different ideas that come from so many different directions, and you need a lot of people who have different perspectives to get to where we want to go. When you're stepping into a new situation, you have a small understanding of what it's going to take, but you don't know everything that's going to happen along the way. And so you want to have people around you that see it a little bit differently, that aren't afraid to step up and bring different suggestions to the table. And I love that here. I mean, one thing about being in a place like George Washington is it's a very diverse, there's there's a very diverse student body, being in the city. And so you're really, we had managers from all over the world. We had male managers, we had female managers, we had operations. Our operations woman was a female as well. And we just had such a great balance. And I think that's really important. I think when you look at a lot of times you're in a team and our players had such great relationships with their mother. Come to a basketball situation, there's only men.
Right.
And we may have had guys who maybe never knew their fathers, didn't have great relationships with their fathers. So I think in order for someone to be at their very best, they have to be able to feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable, to share things that maybe they haven't shared before. I always look at, maybe there's one thing every one of us is hiding, that if we were able to let the world know, we could go be our best. And that one thing is really holding us back. And so when you build a program with diverse people, you're just giving yourself the ability for someone to open up to someone a little bit different. You never know. Like as a head coach, I could represent something negative in their past, but someone else in our staff could represent something very positive, and they'd be able to really open up to them. And I just think that's really important to be able to have. And we've had, I was at Mount St. Mary's. We had a female director of basketball operations, and she was outstanding. We did the same thing here at GW, and we're just trying to recreate the kind of staff that we had there. In terms of just having a person who's so locked into the details on a day-to-day basis. You can get locked in some of these basketball jobs, and it's different. I mean, Duke just hired the first general manager. That's pretty neat. But in college basketball, you have all these different. You have 4 or 5 spots, and you're basically dividing those spots up into all these different positions. Some are on the floor, some are off the floor. And I always feel like that was a weakness of college basketball. I wanted to have someone on our staff that wasn't really worried about the on the floor. Yeah. So locked into the details off of the floor, because, Coach Flannery told me when I became the operations guy at Bucknell, he told me, he said, the hard part is that every mistake that I make, everybody's going to know. Yeah. Because it might be team meals, it might be buses, it might be flights, it could be, whether the uniforms are ready to go. And so it's not like you can hide something. I could miss something on a scouting report and it may not come to light in that game. But in that operations position, it's just so important to have someone who can just lock in on one thing and lock into the details, not as locked into basketball. And I think sometimes, now it's kind of changed. Now the operations person or video person could be on the floor some. So I think I'd have to reevaluate how I did it moving forward. But at the way it stood before, your operations person couldn't even be on the floor. And so I think being able to have a person who can do your social media, that can do your graphics, that can communicate with people, I thought it was great for when we had mothers on the visit. I felt like that camaraderie between our operations and our families was better. We did a large mentoring program here as well, right? So each one of our players had a mentor that they had. The goal was for them to have for all 4 years, and the mentor was someone that was in their field of study. So that was really exciting. So you want someone who can really be organized with that. And again, when the mentors are coming to the game, I don't want that operations person necessarily worried about the underneath out of bounds. I want to make sure that person feels great, that they don't feel like a guest, they feel like family, because they're spending their time with us. So, that's how I've always looked at it. I just think it's so important to be able to have, I grew up in an educational background. My dad teaches for 35 plus years. My mom's a special education teacher. My dad's like, the coach, the gym teacher, all those things. So I grew up around a lot of really strong women in the school system. So just not being afraid to hire a woman or to hire a minority in any spot. Hopefully it takes trend in college basketball. It hasn't really yet, but hopefully it will, because I think it's only helped our team. It's only helped our programs and allowed us to be at our best. And, really proud to be able to say we've been able to do that.
That's awesome. Do you think it's getting harder to be a college basketball head coach in the last few years, or do you think it's just different, where people mistake harder for different?
I think it's different, and I think it's different and harder. I mean, I think both are right, because again, you have 4 or 5 coaches, and you're asking these coaches to do, to create NIL deals or try to have these kind of conversations, and that might not be their skill set.
Right.
Right. I mean, their skill set is, when you're coming into college basketball, my skill set might have been, hey, I want to work with the guard, I want to work with the post, and I'm great at those areas. Now you're asking this person who doesn't have the skill set to go out here and try to do something different or to learn it on the fly. The people that are doing the best with this NIL stuff are really just business people.
Yeah.
Which not none of us, but many of us don't have that kind of background. So you're having to kind of learn that on the fly. I think it will settle down. I do think that we need to have more positions in college basketball, because the skill set for what you're asking someone to do, like you're asking someone to coach a game and mentor a young person to bring them along and be supportive. Those 2 things may not fit a business model.
Right.
And so because of that, I think, everyone should be looking into hiring more staff to support the players at the level they need to be supported and to be able to give these programs what they need.
Do you think that's going to be something that creates a bigger gap between the mid-majors and the high majors? Is just that the high majors will invest more and add more of those kind of positions, and the mid-majors just can't afford it?
I don't. I mean, I think the gap has always been there and will always be there, and the gap will always be maintained.
Okay.
Right. You know what I mean? Because they've always had more. They've always kind of figured out things a little bit faster, have had a little bit more leverage, had a little bit more freedom to do different things. So the gap's going to be there. Once they open up where kids could transfer right away and play right away, the gap was always going to continue to be there, because kids can leave a situation and go play, right away. Right. So why wouldn't you, if you're in the ACC, not take high school kids and just wait to see which mid-major players came out to be available?
Right.
I'll take all of them. So that gap's going to always be there, but I think it will settle out. The reality of it is, you got great mid-majors and low-major coaches doing a great job of developing players, evaluating players, and helping them improve. And that's going to continue. And those guys are going to move or not move. But when they do move, I think those mid-major programs do a great job of finding the next group of guys that has the ability to do that. One thing, when you look at basketball right now, it's the most celebrated it's ever been. It's the most trained it's ever been. It's the most skilled it's ever been. There are more kids right now that can play the game of basketball than ever before. You're always going to be able to find someone that can kind of fit in there and do what you need them to do. It might look different. I will say one of the challenges that we had here at GW is trying to get A10 level talent to all play together, and trying to get all that to work as one. As most of the time when you have a talented team, you have ability to help those guys grow together, over a season, not over 3 months in the summer before you have to go and play. And so that's going to be a challenge that everyone will kind of figure out. I don't know if we did a great job of that, honestly, because I feel like you had so many moving parts coming in and out that you're really trying to assess, well, what can a guy really do in practice and what can you do in the game? And that really dictates how you're going to play, especially when you're adding a lot of new faces and new ability. But I think that will settle out. The gap's always been there. It's always going to be there. But you're still going to have great mid-major teams that upset in March, because
St. Peter's just ran the gauntlet almost.
Right. I mean, you look at that St. Peter's team. That St. Peter's team, they basically, those guys were all there and didn't have the ability to transfer out here before. They all stayed together, got better, have a great head coach in Shaheen Holloway. He's able to put guys out there who've been there together for 3 or 4 years, and then you go play these teams that are a little bit incomplete because they've added a guy here or weren't able to add another guy there. And now the more complete team goes out and win when the pressure is at its highest.
Yeah.
And I think you'll continue to see that.
And you just saw in North Carolina, they're bringing everybody back. And I think everything settles down. It's a lot of change real quick. And I think the portal, NIL, I think it will all even out. And you see the numbers, like minutes decreased for a lot of the kids who transferred this past year. And that was something that kids, there's going to be data. The data will be there, and there's going to be more data to show to kids and help them make the most informed decision. But ultimately, it's just kids have more options, and that's good. They have more options to figure things out. But it's also, what people miss is the high major kids who realize, man, I might not play in this program, so I'm going to go down. I'm going to go to mid-major and play really well and, help this mid-major program, and that might be what gets you over the top. Did you, and the thing with where you were at, in your 3 years at George Washington, which I can only imagine was difficult because like your year 1 is just like, hey, I'm just getting my feet wet. I'm figuring out where we're at as a program, who I've got here. Year 2, the pandemics comes into the focus. Like that, I feel like every coach who had to navigate that, especially a newer coach, it's just not fair. Like recruiting was extremely complicated. Getting kids on campus was complicated. Building chemistry was complicated. Was that something that you found where you think about, you're like, man, if we did not have the pandemic right at like just the beginning of when I'm building a program, that like a lot of this goes differently?
Yeah, I would have loved to see what that looked like. I mean, I felt like we had really established, we had a good group, but we just didn't have a chance to get everybody playing together. I think Washington, D.C. was interesting too. I mean, you're talking about a pandemic, but when you're talking about Washington, D.C., you're talking about one of the most liberal places in the country. So, I don't think we even got back into school until maybe late August before our players got back. And we had really talented players. Matthew Moyer came in, Ricky Lindo came in, James Bishop came in. Sloan Seymour is eligible to play. So we just had a lot of new faces and new guys that could play, including the freshmen coming in, with Jameson Battle coming back, Jameer Nelson coming back. It's just like a good crew of guys, but just needed that time to grow together. And I think what was hard, I mean, you talk about the pandemic, which was tough on everybody. I mean, millions and millions of people lost their jobs. I mean, I'll never lose sight of how hard it was on our country and on individuals, and just how hard that was. And then we were just trying to play a game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, we're trying to play a game, and we don't have enough nurses that can perform in the hospital.
Right.
And it's just, for me, that was a really challenging time because I'm so much about player safety. I'm so much about that. And that was a really tough time. And then when you're in the city here, every protest ends in DC. I always say in DC and then it ends in DC. So there were probably 4 or 5 times our campus was locked down where we weren't able to practice or weren't able to get out of our dorm rooms because we had everyone knows about the insurrection on January 6th, but no one recognized when you're in DC, there were 3 or 4 protests before then and 2 protests after that. Really affect your daily life. We actually had, at one point we were part of the perimeter. So we had tanks on campus. After the insurrection. So, you had to have only certain people were allowed into campus and off of campus. So it's just weird. I mean, if you imagine driving into work and there's a tank, a block away from the gym.
It's the heart of basketball season too.
Heart of basketball season. So it was just a little bit different, just trying to work through that. And then after that actually forced us, because we're in the perimeter, we couldn't play anybody at home. It actually forced us to move off of campus. So we moved off of campus, and then when we got there, it was crazy because the entire National Guard was staying at that hotel. And so they're all staying at the hotel, and they're like, this is going to be really scary. And within probably 4 days of being there, we just started testing positive for COVID. And then that went on. I think we had a 36-day layoff in the middle of the season. And so it just kind of gets rolling on you, snowballing sometimes. But that can just happen. I mean, it's great to look, well, what would have happened if that wouldn't have happened? But the reality of it is it did happen. And it felt like, we responded. I think we finished the year 2-2 at the last 4 games. We only had 6 scholarship players to finish the season. So when that stuff starts rolling downhill a little bit, it is challenging. But I don't feel sorry for it. I mean, I'm glad we did everybody got out of there safely. We had guys really step up and just try. I mean, we had guys playing 40 minutes a game. We didn't have enough guys on the team. I'm just really proud of that group, and I'll never look back on it as a negative. We decided to play. We wanted to play. These are the chances. Things that can happen if you do play. But I'll never lose sight that millions of Americans lost their jobs, and people were affected all the way around the world. We were fortunate enough to be able to play a game and to really survive doing it.
What would you say is the biggest thing you learned about yourself coaching at GW?
Pretty tough guy. I mean, I think, when you're a guy that smiles a lot and you have great optimism, people don't think that people don't necessarily think that you're tough, but we're pretty tough. I mean, the ability to stick to a plan. We got here and we looked at the history of GW, and it had really been built by transfers through the last 10 years. Just a lot of great players that transferred in. Very few guys were high school that actually came in and then made it all the way through. So we recognized that was going to be a challenge for us for whatever reason. And I never, when I come into a situation, I never look at it and say, well, this guy didn't do this well enough or whatever. I kind of just, do this whole assessment of the 10 years. And I just try to say, all right, well, these are potential pitfalls or these are things we need to look out for. So, we just knew we were going to have to build it through transfers anyway. So really it became about trying to build the roster in a way that was attractive enough for James Bishop.
Mm.
He felt like he could come in and play 34 minutes and have an opportunity to go and play. And so I feel like with the plan we put together from day one here, was probably the best plan we've had actually in terms of how to acquire players. Now, I don't think we had enough time. I mean, I think we basically ended up with, I think we're probably short of 3 years together with the team, because of COVID, because of restrictions, because of different things. So I think that's just part of the journey. But I learned it was pretty tough, being able to stick to a plan when most people, I think, would have tried to waver. There's games and stretches in there where guys were playing maybe poorly, just stuck with them. And then those guys really played well for us at the end. And, a lot of people would have bailed and they would have tried to start doing a bunch of different stuff. I felt like we stayed true to it and stayed true to who we are. So I'll say being tough. I'll say the second thing is just that, just having an ability to love and to appreciate what is around you, even if what someone's telling you isn't what you want to hear, but being able to love and appreciate that person for telling you the truth. That can be really tough, especially if you're losing. We've only won my entire career. I've only won 7 years of winning, and then we get to the last 3 years and we struggle. And but the ability to be able to just be able to take the right advice in and be able to listen. I take a lot of positive experience. Honestly, it's weird because I take a lot of positive experiences from here. I just learned a ton just about, not just program building, because we've done a good job at every place we've been. Every place we've been is better when we left. But more so just learning what are things you need to get to the next level and just trying to assess those things moving forward.
Interesting. What is the number one thing you're going to do differently at your next job?
We have a great plan. I mean, I need to stick to my plan. Even more so, what we were just talking about there was a planning of how we build a program. But I had a really good plan about how we like to bring in staff and how we like to develop staff. And at the Mountain Sienna, I spent so much time in developing staff. We just spent a lot of time together in terms of reading and assessing and growing together and having tough conversations and building our leadership within our coaching staff in itself. And I got away from that here because we just switched on this talent. We just need to acquire talent. And so we ended up just kind of chasing talent around and then trying to get the talented guys to perform for us. And I don't think I did a great job on really developing our staff and what was needed and how we needed to get there. And I'm going to do a much better job of that. But we have a plan for that. A lot of it, honestly, Chase, when I went back and assessed it, it was the stuff we had done at the place before would have worked. We just didn't have the time and ability to do all those things. So I think those are a couple of things I think are really important to be able to do. Just have true self-assessment on what went well, what didn't go well, what went horrible, and just be honest with yourself. And I didn't do as great a job with the staff in terms of just spending as much time with them. And, I don't want to say I separated myself from them. I would never say that. We were really close. I mean, when I talk about our staffs being close, we're really close. Our kids all play together. We have barbecues together. I mean, we do, it's very different than I think any college basketball staff because we do so much together. And I've always wanted it that way because I feel like when you love the person you're working with, you're going to do more for them, with them. And so we're always going to kind of build that environment out. But I think being able to really just have a group of guys where we're just really learning and understanding the guys on our team every day, I think I could have done a much better job of that. And I've done that before. So, I know that the plan is to be able to do that.
Did you always want to be a coach? Is that something that since you were young, even when you're still playing, is that what you just always saw for yourself was you're going to be a coach?
Yeah, that's a good question. I love sport and I love competing. I love watching people become the best version of themselves or work towards it. And I've always been a person who can watch someone learn a skill and be encouraging enough for them to continue to move through their failure. I've just always been that type of person. So I think that allows you to be a coach. And I don't know if that's a coach as a basketball coach or a life coach or executive coach or what that means, but I'm just the type of person that can really enjoy that. If you, after we finish this pod, if you say, man, I'm really working on this and I'll say, all right, well, let me send you this and see what you think. You hit me back in a week and you say, oh, I really appreciate that. Really helped me. I'll follow up with you in probably 2 years and say, hey, are you still doing X, Y, and Z? And I just enjoy that process of being able to do that. That's really enjoyable for me. I love being a coach. I love being there for our players. I love being an example for them. I love that. I love doing it in a fashion. If I wasn't coaching, I had 3 newspaper jobs right out of college. That's a good thing I didn't take those. So I do enjoy journalism.
Yeah.
I am big on that, the media side of it. I'm a communications major from Mount St. Mary's University.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I wasn't coaching, I would definitely be I'd be in the media.
Yeah.
I would have been writing right away,
Mm-hmm.
and I enjoy doing that. And I'm spending a good amount of time doing that now. I think that's been a lot of fun for me, just getting back to my roots and being able to do that stuff. So,
Well, maybe it's the Chase and Jamion college basketball show this fall.
maybe. I mean, I'm in. I mean, I'm dying to partner with somebody and talk some hoops. I love doing that, and I can do that anytime.
There you go. Jamion Christian in 5 years, what is he doing?
Good question. In 5 years, I'm taking the things that I learned through the first 10, including this year. I think it's an important year to learn, to get a chance to have great observation. But in 5 years, I'll be right back there being one of the top coaches in college basketball. I'll be right there doing what we need to do. And we'll look at this 3 years here and we'll say, man, that was a blip. And I'll be out there speaking and telling people about how, failure really, really allows you to be at your very best. I always feel like
failure is trying. Like
failure is trying. I always say, like, your tears are just going to create growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so those things that make you cry, if you assess them the right way and you fertilize them the right way, they're going to help you grow. And so just trying to really be locked in this process. This is an important year for me to learn to grow. I'm going to do a great job of that. I'm locked in on doing that. And, I think in the next 5 years, we'll be coming off a Sweet 16 somewhere. And people say, man, I can't believe that happened to him.
There you go.
But it'll be a great story because there can be someone out there that's going to need to know that, you can fail epically and recover with the right kind of mindset. And hopefully I'll be able to be that kind of example for somebody.
Absolutely. In terms of your up-tempo offense and your quote-unquote havoc-like defense, how did you develop both of those? Was the defense just like Shaka tape and you just love the VCU tape? And was that kind of where you just kind of, because everyone just picks, like, you just find different things. You're like, I like this. I want to develop this. I can put my own spin on this. Like, how did you develop your offensive and defensive philosophy?
Yeah. So, my first job was at a place called Emory and Henry College in Southwestern Virginia, only about, I think, 90 minutes from Knoxville, actually.
Really? I'm telling you, Knoxville, it's so strange that we're close to South Carolina, Virginia, North Carolina, Georgia. I don't understand geography at all because I don't know how we're that close to everything, but that's reality.
I would go to UT women's games. They play on those Sundays. I'd slide in there and watch those UT women's games, and it wasn't too far from there. But my first job was at Emory Henry College, and we press and trap for 40 minutes. We subbed different guys in every 35 seconds. So actually in my notebook, I had Mount Mayhem as one of my names. When I was an assistant coach coaching Division III. I always knew that I would want to play up tempo. I just think playing up tempo to me is the best. Like, I love, as a coach,
you were kind of ahead of the curve because they weren't really doing that as much at that time.
We were shooting so many threes. I mean, we were taking 75 to 80% of our shots from three. In 2004, 2005.
That's insane. Yeah.
Right. So we were way ahead of it. We couldn't find a post player in recruiting. So we just said, we're going to play all guards. We're going to shoot a ton of threes. We'll change the game to fit us by the numbers. So that's where I get a lot of my philosophy from is where I really learned that, and how I can be analytical, but also understand the player side of it and try to build it out. My experience with Coach Smart, he showed me how to do it at a higher level and what kind of players you need to do and how you can evaluate the psyche of a player before you bring them in. And Coach Smart, I give him a ton of credit. I always do. Love Coach Smart to death. He really taught me how to be me with the guys. Something that happens up until that point, I'd only worked for older white head coaches. Right? So you don't know how to be you in front of them until you work for a guy who's like yourself. And he was so natural with the players, and he connected with them in such a way. It was amazing to watch him take a guy who might have gone 0 for 10 the night before, and to just sit with him before practice and elevate the kid's spirit from 0 to 100. And I just love that about Coach Smart. And so having a chance to watch him do that really has impacted my life in so many different ways and impacted my coaching. And so, obviously there's some basketball stuff, he ball screened a ton there. We worked closely on ball screen and how to do that. He helped me a ton on the basketball parts. I never want to act like he didn't help me there. He was amazing to me, and he gave me the confidence that 2 years after being at VCU, we could be in the NCAA tournament and have a chance to win a game. Right? He helped give me that kind of confidence. But I just gave him credit for so much more of helping me become the man that I became, and having the confidence to go out here and attack whatever there is.
That's really cool. Your favorite cheat meal, what is it?
Cheat meal?
Yeah.
Oh,
If you're able to
man.
just eat whatever you want for one day, what do you do?
I love eating.
Okay.
So, I love eating. If I'm going to cheat, I mean,
Mm.
let's say I'm going on a plane, right? If
Yeah.
I'm going to fly, I'm definitely getting some collision gummies.
Okay.
I'm going to do that.
That used to be me before TMJ.
Okay. So,
TMJ, man, the gummies, like the gum, I can't do gum, I can't do gummies, anything like that. My jaw will lock or I'm in just pain.
I
And
love
I
gummies.
learned that like your jaw is connected to your ear and it's all connected and it will just, the headaches will come. It's so weird how all that works. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
So I don't know, understand it, but it does and it drives me nuts.
Yeah. I would say, it used to be Doritos
Okay. What flavor?
before COVID. Nacho, just a regular.
Nacho. Not a Cool
Before,
Ranch guy.
nah, just keep it basic.
Okay.
But then I had COVID, and
Yeah.
I had COVID during that 36-day layover
Uh-huh.
here at GW, and I lost my taste and my taste and my scent for 10 months.
10 months.
10 months, it was gone. So I had long range COVID, so it was gone for like 10 months.
Yeah. So were you eating super healthy or like I'm
was
only eating just like trees, leaves, everything for this
I was
10
eating
months?
so well.
Yes.
And more spicy foods. So I could taste really extreme spices
Uh-huh.
that would taste bland to me. So I was doing a lot of that. But then and once I got my taste back,
Mm-hmm.
I can't really have Doritos. They don't taste the same to me at all. So my
Oh,
taste
wow. Is
definitely,
anything else different or is it just Doritos?
it's Doritos are more obvious because they were definitely my cheat food.
Okay.
So
Like you knew it well. Like
so
you were
now
very
I
familiar.
have
Yeah.
another one because that was definitely my cheat food. That like if it was a bad game and I was eating my feelings, I was gonna have some Doritos.
Okay.
I definitely need to find something else. Now I'm pretty bland. I just have almonds. Like so that's
Hey man,
that was
look,
my fun
look,
cheat.
we're like one and the same. Like I got like we
The Aries, man. That's how
yeah. Isn't that wild? Like yeah, there you go. Do you have any pregame rituals? Did you have anything that you were like on game day, this is what I have to do?
Well, we talked a little bit before, just me being a baseball player.
Yeah.
So definitely some routines. I wouldn't call them superstitions.
Yeah. You're just a little stitious.
But I definitely just a little stitious.
Mm-hmm.
So before the game, I'm always going to write in my journal.
Okay.
I try to really get myself into a really emotional place. I'm going to write not really much about the game as I am going to write. Usually I write something towards like my son or what I'm grateful for, what I'm thankful for. Because, I came from New Kent, Virginia, man, where like there was no basketball players coming out of there. And to have a chance to walk out in front of, thousands of people and coach the game that I love. I just want to be in such a great place where I'm just grateful for the opportunity. And I want to be in such a place with the game when I walk out there. I can feel the emotions of the crowd and feel the emotions of our team and just really be one with everybody. So I just try to get myself to such an emotional place. So I'm going to journal, write about the things that I'm grateful for, the people that I'm grateful for. It usually ends up with something with my son. And now I get to write about both my sons now.
There you go.
So thankful I am for them, thankful for my wife and the life that I have, thankful for God. And then I will I'll always meditate. I try to find 5 minutes to meditate where I try to visualize the first 15 minutes of the game. What kind of plays we're going to call, what their reaction is going to be. Just try to get in sync with how the game's going to go. I do think that's helped me a ton where I don't get too high or low through the course of the game. Because I usually try to visualize the worst that can happen and just how we can respond to it and what play we need to call after they've made 3 baskets in a row and, what I need to say in a timeout. So I try to put myself in a mental place there. And then, then I'll listen to some music occasionally, but not all the time, just depending on the day or, the time of year.
That's interesting. We'll end on this, Coach. You get a rare day off. You can do whatever you want to do. What do you go do?
I got a lot of days off now.
Well, I mean, that's true. But like a rare day off, like not even parent responsibilities. Yeah. I'm saying no husband responsibilities, no parental responsibilities. You're able to do whatever you want to do.
If I had a day off like that.
Like you're not watching any basketball, by the way. We're also throwing that in there.
Oh, no basketball and hoops?
No basketball.
Honestly, I'm probably on the beach somewhere.
Okay.
But with my family. I feel like on vacations, basketball coaches, including myself, we get a chance to show our families different sides of us that they don't see the whole rest of the year. It's like as soon as you walk into the house, it's like you're back on your job front. So the vacation Jamion or the vacation head coach is
different guy.
Just a different guy. You walk out there and you get some tan, you get some sand under your toes and water's out there. you're just out there with your family and just like, like your one son's like running in and out of the water and your wife's getting some sun and relaxing. And, that's a great day for me. That's all I really want is to not be bothered, not hurting anybody's feelings, not pissing everybody off.
Yeah.
But just in my element with the people that I love most. I probably would, if it was a perfect day off, and I would extend it past just my immediate family. I've got probably about 9 or 10 really close friends that, about once a year we take a little trip together.
Huh.
I'd want them with me, and I'd want us all just being able to hang out. They've got children now, and our wives all get along, and, it's just a great thing. And, be able to have all those people who you love most around you. Being a head basketball coach is a very singular thing. I mean, you're alone a lot.
Yeah.
Alone in your thoughts, alone in your decision making. So anytime you get a break, I rarely want to be alone. I want to be around those who I love the most, and just being able to spend some time. We'll definitely have some seafood on this day.
Okay.
I love seafood, shrimp and crab.
Okay.
We'll probably have a crab feast and hang out.
So you're in on the whole process of cutting up some crab and just cracking and
absolutely.
getting to. Okay.
Absolutely. I mean, I love doing that.
Interesting.
I grew up in Tidewater in Virginia, so you at the family cookout, if you couldn't do that, you were definitely getting made fun of. So you had to figure it all out.
How far is that from where AI grew up?
So AI, I mean, obviously, if you're Virginia, I mean, I grew up probably about 35, 45 minutes from AI.
Okay.
But he's like a legend. Like, I don't think people understand. Like, I think people think they know, but you don't understand AI in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like, he is like the guy behind me, MJ.
Yeah.
Virginia. So, when you're growing up and you're playing high school basketball, there are like these tapes, these VHS tapes that people were dubbing and selling of his high school games.
That's wild.
Well, if you're able to get a VHS tape of this, right, and they're selling for like $25, $30. If you ever get one of these games with him, you're like watching every single day.
Yeah.
So I don't think people understand like that legend AI. I mean, like they understand him from Philly and his impact on Philadelphia. But in Virginia, if you were a guard in Virginia in that era, you had the big crossover. You had all of it. You carried yourself the same way, the same kind of swagger. I mean, AI in Virginia. I mean, he's my
favorite player of all time. I got 2 jerseys in my room. That was my guy. Like I had the I3s growing up, the zip up with the shit. Like that was my guy. Like
his shoe game was amazing. How he carried himself. How, he has a great ability. And I don't know him personally, but he has a great ability to be who he is, but to also show that he's very caring.
Yes.
Right. But also he's a killer on the floor. So it's like he has these abilities to kind of go in and out of these different buckets. People really enjoy watching. And
off the floor, he just seems warm. Like he seems like a warm person.
Such a great guy, caring guy, understands where he's from, wants to help those around him. Like growing all the years growing up in Virginia, I didn't hear one person ever say anything bad about him. You know how hard that is, to be that iconic and not have someone. Everybody wanted to care for him. He wanted to care for everybody. So if you're born and raised in Virginia during that era, I mean, he's everything. So, he's just, he's the best. Like, it's hard to do the NBA, like you do the numbers, who's the top 5. And if I'm from Virginia, I always have to throw AI in there.
Yeah.
Even if it's like, well, you get him above this, it's like, I don't think you understand the impact he had on, Virginia basketball over that era, over that time. And even look at the colleges in that era were great. All the colleges were great. Everybody coming from those areas were great. I mean, he just elevated everybody in a basketball sense. And, he's just amazing. Amazing person.
Absolutely. Jamion, how do the good folks keep up with you and what's going on? Anything you'd like to plug as we wrap up today?
Yeah, I'm diving in and doing some consulting business with some folks. I'm easy to find. Like I'm consulting with teams and some CEOs, which is great. How you build elite teams. So it's been great to kind of partner with some business people and kind of help them build out their executive teams as they're trying to learn how to, just trying to learn how to elevate them, and how to lead them. And you have so many people that are doing executive training, one-on-one training, which I doing some of that as well, which is great. But then they also need help with their executive team. So bringing someone in who's kind of climb this mountain in a different way and it has a different perspective, but very versed in the business principles and things you can do there. So that's been an exciting part for me over the last 6 weeks or so, diving in a ton of that kind of consulting stuff. But also now doing some consulting with some coaches, some young coaches. They want me to come in, do a different project, help them build out their stuff for the summer, whatever it is, kind of see how I view their team, their staff. So, diving in a bunch of those different things. I mean, you can find me on Twitter at Jamion Christian. You can find me on Instagram at the same Jamion Christian there. So I'm pretty easy to find anytime you Google. So, but I'm looking forward to being able to impact people, for the year or for however long it takes to to just keep helping people do what they want to do better, and I love what they're doing. And that's been enjoyable for me for this time period. I'm looking forward to continue to doing that.
There you go. Jamion, this has been great. Thank you so much for making the time, and we'll have to check back in again soon.
We'll do it. Thanks so much.